A major political upset in Alaska last night as a Democrat won the state's only seat in the U.S. House of Representatives. Former state legislator Mary Peltola won a special election to replace former Congressman Don Young, who died earlier this year. Peltola's Republican opponents included former vice presidential nominee and Governor Sarah Palin and Nick Begich, whose grandfather represented the seat in the 70s. They will all face off again in November. It's also the state's first election using ranked choice voting. Joining me now to discuss her win is Congresswoman-elect Mary Peltola. Congratulations.
Thank you, Judy. Good to be with you.
So we looked at this. There were originally dozens of people in this race. Alaska's only been represented in Congress in the House by a Republican for what, almost 50 years. You were running against two Republicans, well-known. You came in as almost an unknown. How did you do it?
Well, like you say, Judy, it was a large field of 48. And luckily this year we are using the ranked choice voting system. And I think that Alaskans just really had an appetite for candidates who really wanted to stick to the issues and not get involved in partisan pettiness. And I think that really helped my campaign.
You mentioned that it was ranked choice, and I think what surprised a lot of people is that something like 30% of Mr. Begich's vote, when they were doing the second round of counting, went to you. He's a Republican. You're a Democrat. How do you figure that?
Well, I think Alaskans just tend to vote for the person and not necessarily the party affiliation. I think that folks who are interested in public policy and making sure our economy stays on track and we're doing things to try to manage our inflation and logistics, supply chain issues and things like that did find me appealing. I did serve 10 years in the State House of Representatives. I served in a very bipartisan way. I was instrumental in reestablishing what we refer to as our Bush caucus, and that's really 10 House districts off of the road system, representing rural and remote districts. And typically our caucus of 10 had 5 Republicans and 5 Democrats. And although I was in the minority, the 10 years I served in the legislature, I was an effective legislator. I was able to bring home capital projects. I was able to pass legislation and build coalitions to get Alaska moving forward.
You would be, as we reported, the first Native Alaskan to serve in Congress. But I noticed that you said last night, that I'm quoting, you said you're much more than just your ethnicity. What does that mean?
Well, clearly, it is of significance that an Alaskan Native is now part of our congressional delegation, even if it's just this short term, this short seat. Alaskan Natives, have been here for a very long time, and we have not necessarily been reflected in the democratic process or among policymakers at the table with really a position at the table. But Alaska is a very diverse state. We have people from all over the world. The Anchorage School District has over 90 languages spoken in homes in the Anchorage School District. So clearly we're a very diverse people across our state, but we have a common future. And I just really want to make it clear that I intend to represent all Alaskans regardless of their ethnic background.
So you're not saying you don't feel a special responsibility to represent Native Alaskans?
Well, that's certainly there, and it is significant that we now have representation representing Alaska's First People, but Alaska Natives only comprise about 16% of the Alaskan population, and we just have to make sure that because we only have one congressman for the entire state of Alaska, we need to make sure that that one congressman is really working on behalf of all Alaskans.
You mentioned this race is over, but in 2 months, you're going to be running a race all over again, regularly scheduled election. Your communications person was telling my colleagues that this is going to be tougher, that you expect the Republicans to circle the wagon, spend a lot of money. How's it going to be different, do you think?
Well, I will be multitasking here. I will be doing my very best to make sure that our constituent relations team is doing everything they can to make sure that Alaskans have their constituent needs met. You mentioned our congressman passed away back in March, and his office has been closed for a number of months. Our congressional delegation only has 3 people, so having that person missing, it leaves a huge gap in our very small congressional delegation. So I'll be working very hard to make sure that that front is taken care of. I need to be making sure that I'm learning the lay of the land in Washington, D.C., and building quality, positive relationships with colleagues and seeing where I can work at building coalitions to overcome some of Alaska's challenges and capitalize on our opportunities. But I am very focused on November because that really is what we're all most interested in, is that 2-year seat.
Republicans are clearly going to be trying to tie you to the National Democratic Party. I want to ask you about one issue. President Biden in the last few days has been talking about an assault weapons ban. Is this something you would support if it came up for a vote, which I understand it may come up in the months to come?
Well, and I'll need to look more carefully at the details of that proposal. I think it is noteworthy that Bethel, Alaska, my hometown, had the first school shooting in our nation. I think that many of us, I'm a mom, I'm a grandmother. Of course, I'm very concerned about this epidemic that we're seeing, but I do want to make sure that Alaskans understand that I am a staunch advocate for our Second Amendment rights. I myself have 176 long guns in my home. We are avid hunters. We are very, very tied to our subsistence resources and having access to wild game. And really, the most important factor in terms of being a successful hunter is having access to guns and ammunition.
Let me just finally ask you, does your win, do you think, spell good news for Democrats in November, or do you think it may not say anything to the party about what's going to happen in the House for Democrats?
Well, I don't think that there is much good to be made from making predictions, especially political predictions. I am not one to want to jinx anything, so I will reserve judgment until November 8th.
We will leave it at that, and we'll congratulate you again, Mary Peltola, newly elected Congresswoman from the state of Alaska. Thank you.
Thank you, Judy.